All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Mr. Richardson, and today I'm going to be teaching you a lesson about parental involvement in education, otherwise known as PI. So, before I start, I just want to apologize if you can hear any sounds on the outside. I've got a cat right over there. I'm gonna really, I'm really hoping you can't see that, but yeah, I'm excited to get to learning this lesson, and I hope I'm not too much of a distraction. If you can hear what's going on, I'm gonna ignore it from now on, and hope you guys can't hear it. So thanks. So first of all, I want to introduce this topic. Today, I'm going to be discussing with you the concept of parental assistance and potential interference in the world of classroom education and in the world of school in general. So essentially, what I want to get at today is how can parents assist teachers and school staff in teaching their students, their children, and how that attempted assistance might eventually get in the way of actual learning. And I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into how it affects mental illnesses. I'm going to get into all of that. But I may as well start with the basics. That being, I want to tell you guys about each party's view on PI, which is what I'm going to call parental. I saw. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Um, I always forget what the I stands for. It's involvement. I do apologize for that, but yeah. So parental involvement, PI for short, which I'm probably going to start referring to it as PI from now on because it's much shorter. That comes directly from one of the sites I had you read. Not too long. I do have some other sources here that I'm going to go through in a second, but I do want you guys to keep those two articles that I sent you in mind while I'm talking. I assume you read at least most of them. So you're going to have somewhat of an idea of what I'm going to get into, especially in this first little section here about, the views of each party. But once I get into more of the mental illness aspect, you're probably not going to know as much. That's why I'm here. So, first of all, we're going to go with what the teachers think. And the teachers, I think it's important, and I'm sorry if you can see the reflection of my notes page in my glasses. I just want to make sure. Anyways, I'm sorry. Uh, the teachers. So teachers, the way we see it, we are all teachers, or at least attempting to all be teachers, as far as I'm aware. And well, this isn't a universal thing. It certainly is, you know, common. It's commonplace to believe this. I personally believe this, and I'm not going to get into too much of my own personal opinion. We are all human, so of course my own personal opinion will bleed through here and there, but this is a very professional topic, so I don't want to, muddy the waters with my beliefs. But in my field work, we've all began it, I hope. Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed some of my teachers my teacher I'm assigned to, as well as some other teachers at the school. Uh, they all, for the most part, agree with this. I've interviewed some other teachers that I've talked to in the past, some that I still have contact with from high school, and some professors at MCC. And the majority of them believe this, or at least to an extent believe this. And that is essentially the idea that parents shouldn't have too much influence on the world of education. They should have some, not none, not none. Some believe they should have none, but I don't think many believe that they should have no assistance in the world of education. Now, what most believe is that the curriculum should be up to the teachers in the school to decide. And this is a fairly important breaking point here is the curriculum and what they actually believe. Now, with parental involvement, you might be thinking, well, how does curriculum interfere in that? And I'm going to get into that. And essentially, the way it interferes is when I talk about parents, there's a whole lot to unpack there. And what I'm going to go through is I'm going to tell you what the parents' beliefs are. And that essentially is that a lot of parents now, this again, I've been interviewing a lot of parents that I know personally, not just my own, but also some others, some that I have contact with, even some teachers that are also parents that believe this. And that is that parents should have much more say in the curriculum. They should be involved in it, and they should be able to know what their kids are learning. And not just know, I should say. Not just know. They should be able to control what their kids are learning. And that is essentially what I'm trying to get at. So, what I'm going to go through is what the parents actually believe. And mainly, that is given the taxpayer dollars, they should be able to have some say in what's added or taken away from the curriculum. And as I'm sure you've all seen, we have many school board meetings going on right now, current events. As well as during COVID, there were quite a few mishaps at school board meetings throughout the country about parents believing that they should have a say in the curriculum. And now, whether or not you believe this, this is not necessarily an issue per se, but as a teacher, you could probably understand why it's not fully ideal to have parents controlling the full force of the curriculum. And if you're wondering, well, why would that be a bad idea? They are paying for it. They're doing all of this stuff for us. Why can't we, give them the higher say? And here's what I'm going to say. The issue there is that we as teachers have to consider the fact that we are teaching the entirety of the class. Yes, we are teaching everybody, not just one student. And that is where the problem lies. A lot of these parents are concerned with their child, their children, maybe their child's friend. They think that they have the full view, the full scope, when they don't. They have the one child scope and their own personal beliefs. Now, teachers, sure, our personal beliefs get into everything all the time. Like I said earlier, we're all human, it's only natural. But it's our job to separate those beliefs from what we are teaching. Now, what are we teaching specifically? That doesn't really matter. What matters is that we teach it well, and it follows the curriculum and follows what we have been informed to teach them, follows New York State or whatever state we may be in. So what I want to get at here is that the teachers believe that they should teach the curriculum that they have created, that the state has created, that their school has created. The parents, they believe, oh, well, we're the one paying the taxes on it. We should be able to create the curriculum for the teachers. And now there's a happy middle ground here. And notably, I should say that I haven't been able to interview nearly as many people in this scope as I don't know as many, which should be clear, but principals or other higher up school staff. I've interviewed a couple, and this is typically what they believe. Not always, of course. I should definitely say that. I've done some outside research, and I've found some very heavily on one side with the teachers over here, and some very heavily over here with the parents, saying parents should have it all. But there's typically a happy middle ground where you've got the parents here, the teachers here, and there's kind of a collision. But the principals, the higher ups of the school, they want some level of intermingle where, yeah, the parents are spending the money, they're the ones paying for it, but the teachers are the ones who are professionally charged with helping the students. So that's essentially what I want to get at for parental involvement. That's what the parties believe. So next up, I do want to I want to talk about the 3 levels of PI, parental involvement. I'm gonna keep bringing that up. So this is going into, I believe it's yes. I hope you can see this. I don't know if you can. I really hope you can though. If not, you'll see it in my classes. But it's the article, and I apologize, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but Ming-Tae Wang from the University of Pittsburgh and Salam Sheikh Kali from University of Michigan. Again, I deeply apologize if I've pronounced those wrong. But there are 3 types of PI. And those are as follows. They are the academic socialization, home-based involvement, and school-based involvement. And the way I'm going to bring those up is I'm going to go through one by one and explain them and explain how they're important. So first, we've got academic socialization. And this is, again, in my opinion, I apologize for letting my opinion influence this piece at all, but it'll happen. Academic socialization is fairly important for children. And now you might be thinking, well, what's school useful for? And here's what I'm going to tell you. Yeah, school's helpful. It'll teach us math problems. It'll teach us how to write essays. It'll teach us a lot of things. I myself am a history teacher. I could explain to you the importance of history. You might be a math teacher. You might be an English teacher. You might be an art teacher. And, or major. I'm sorry, I'm a history major, art major, but deeper than that. What is the importance? It's the understanding that's important. It's not about solve. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I apologize. It's not about the understanding of the math problems. It's not about learning the quadratic equation. It's not memorizing the dates. It's not realizing why Shakespeare was such a great writer or why Picasso was so important. It's the drawing of connections and the problem solving that's important. And this is where academic socialization comes into play. Academic socialization is essentially what school is all about. It's not totally about how important it is to learn the material. That's very important. But it's also very important. It's critical that students have the ability to talk to each other, work through problems, socialize, develop their minds. Take any psychology class, which I know we all have, obviously, and you'll hear the same thing. It's very important to actually be able to understand one another, talk to one another, work things out. So I'm sorry if it's another background noise. I hope you can't hear that. But anyways, academic socialization. How can parents affect that? Because that is one of the 3 parental influences. So how can they affect that? Well, it's up to them to actually get you started. Sure, academic socialization, what's the first word? Academic. You're going to think, oh, it's talking to classmates, doing group projects, doing all this. Easy, right? Wrong. It's up to the parents to actually initially draw that academic socialization, because what's the second word? Socialization. Where do we get our social skills from? Well, in the first few years of our life, it's our parents, our family. We don't have friends in the first few years of our life. That's up to our parents to get us there for us. So with academic socialization, I believe this is the most important. The parents, they have to be the ones to fully, make us learn how socialization works. And let's see if I can pull up the example I used here. Yep. So this is all provided by outside socialization. And outside socialization is it's right in one of the articles. It's about how to actually, it might not be in an article, I cite. It's in an article. I apologize. So outside of socialization, you might be thinking, oh, well, when you're young, you go on a play date, you go to the playground, you play soccer. There's a lot of things, I'm sure we all played recreational sports. If we didn't, I'm sure that we all did something outside of school. So how does that fit in? Well, that's actually exactly what it is. You fit in. Fitting in with school, that's all with parental supervision. That's all because of your parents. So this is all going to make a lot more sense once I actually get into the in school and out of school. So I'm going to lead this in to out of school. When you're young, the socialization is, like I said, going on play dates, playing, like me, recreational soccer. Did that when I was a little kid. But what does that mean when you get older? How can parents help you outside of school when you get older? Well, study for a test, make flashcards, you help with the projects, you check over their homework. Now granted, is that all you can do? No. Is that all you should do? No. Is it a start? Yeah, I would say it is. And I would argue that this is the second most important point. Because the thing I want to get into here, again, this is coming from the article, is talking about school. Asking, how was your day? What did you learn in your classes? How are your classes going? That's all very important because it helps us develop and learn and grow. And what I'm going to get into with in-school socialization, these are all, it's like a ladder. It goes down, it goes up. They build off of each other. So with in-school socialization, it's parents coming in, talking to the teacher, meeting the class, doing all these things, which you might be thinking, oh no, I don't want my parent doing that. Well, maybe it'll help you. But that meeting the teacher is an important one because with out of school plus in school, talking about the day, checking the grades, that's a big one, making sure everyone's on track, that's the best way for us to do our job, isn't it? We can't just instantly know how a student's doing by looking at their grades. Oh, well, student failed this test. It means they're stupid, right? Of course not. Girlfriend broke up with them, boyfriend broke up with them, they had a bad day, dog died. There's a million and one reasons why we can't just look at a grade and say, oh, the student's failing, it's because the student. Or, oh, student's failing, it's because this, right? We can't just do that. We're not magic. We can't read minds, so it's up to the parents to actually talk to us, or more so the student. But yeah, if the student's not going to talk to us, it's up to the parent to tell us, hey, I just want to let you know, this is happening. This is how my student's doing. There we go. This is how the student's doing. This is what's happening. How do we fix this? And then it's up to us to go through and fix that with them. So I hope that I did a reasonably okay job explaining the 3 types of PI, but I'm going to move on to the actual really important section of this, and that is the mental health. And if you'll remember back to my discussion question, which, depending on when you're seeing this, probably a long time ago, so I doubt you will, but this is all about mental health. That's what the bulk of this is going to be about, is mental health based on parental involvement. And I want to really start off with the positives, because I don't think this is a super negative topic. I think this is a great opportunity. I think everyone should have parental involvement anywhere they can, and I think it's really important. Having parental involvement, actually, the 3 types of PI, not necessarily all at the same amount. You could have way up here academic socialization, and way down here school involvement, and down here, up here, wherever, with all 3. But having some amount of all 3 of them, at least to a certain degree, it's going to help you stay in school, for one. It's going to really help you stay in school. It's going to help you graduate. It's really going to help you keep those grades up, especially with, could be Brightspace, could be Infinite Campus, could be anything else. It'll help you keep those grades up. It's going to help you get a GED, and most of all, it's going to help them go to college. And sure, not all students want to go to college. Some do. I wanted to go to college. You wanted to go to college. It's not just our parents forcing us, but without it, I'm sure a lot of us wouldn't be here. I'm sure without our parents, a lot of us would have just failed the classes and then not taken any college classes, because that's just how we are as humans. We don't want to disappoint. We want to impress. So I think that's the big positive I want to get at. That is a pretty major positive too. Like, that's important. But unfortunately, with this comes a bit of a concept that has been dubbed helicopter parenting. And that's the issue. And the more, psychological, critical thinking term is overly critical parenting. And this is a pretty major point. There is a very clear association between overly critical parents and being, overly critical on schoolwork. Because, of course, you can have an overly critical parent on one thing, not another. But typically, schoolwork is a massive part of that. And we can all see that, I'm sure. Sure, we've all had somebody overcritical in our lives do that. So, what can an overly critical parent with parental involvement that's through the roof with these, what can that do to us? Well, first of all, there's actually a link between this and depression, eating disorders, and the biggest link is to anxiety disorders. That is where the biggest link is between overly critical and mental health disorders, or even physical health. It's anxiety, because you worry about disappointment, of course. You worry about disappointing yourself, everyone else, but you understand that, or not even understand, but you feel that you are being overly pressured to perform. And if you're being overly pressured to perform, you're I'm sorry. If you're being overly pressured to perform, then you're not going to be able to, perform at peak levels. So I am going to go into my notes here for just 1 second, and I'm going to bring up, I don't know if you can read these, but Yeah, I hope you can read that page. I would have it up back here, but I don't have an extra screen, sadly. I don't have a screen to show you guys. But first of all, I want to bring up overly critical parents typically come from a place of wanting to succeed. And, that's going to happen everywhere. You're going to want your child to succeed. You're going to want a student to succeed. We aren't immune from this. There can be overcritical teachers as well. That's just part of life. And the way to avoid this is to avoid putting unrealistic expectations. And where does that come from? Well, studies show, such as this study right here, about EDU, the negative effects of parenting and parental stress on students. So what that's going to show is, if you want to read it later, I'm going to briefly go over it here, but I would suggest reading it. It's not one of the two I linked, but I really think you should read that article. But what it goes over is essentially this. Parental stress and overall overcritical thinking can actually lead to various mental and physical defects on the student, and it can really harm students in a lot of ways. And this article is where I got the quote saying that it often comes from a place of good. And that place is more often than not them trying to press themselves onto their students or onto our students or their children, could be either one. And what it comes from is us wishing we did better back when we were in that situation. We wish we did better, so we're going to have our student, have our child try to do better than we did. We want them to succeed past us. So what happens is we have overly critical standards that leads to, you guessed it, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, tons of other negative disorders, negative impacts on us, on our students. So I want to continue getting into this, and I am watching that time. It's getting a little short, but so right here. Last thing I want to bring up with this topic is the idea of cheating. Now, we as teachers, or training to be teachers, I'm sure some of us have already encountered it. Cheating is not something that we want to see as teachers because it means that we aren't doing our job. And sadly, that's what overly critical mindsets lead to, is cheating often. And the reason it leads to this is because the student feels that they cannot have the ability to, succeed in the way that they are trying to succeed. So they have to use outside resources to succeed. And a lot of studies have shown that the more critical their grades are, the more they need to pass these classes, not in terms of, necessarily they need to graduate, get a GED, get a college degree, etc. But the more they need to pass those classes, the more they are going to cheat. And I'm running out of time here, but I do want to, before my conclusion, I want to get back to this. And that is parental influence, PI, in the classroom. It's very important. It should be important. It is important, and it will always be important. And what we're going to see going forward is that there's going to be more influence. Love it or hate it, there will be more influence. And I mean, we can pull up these articles that I've got, the articles I linked for you. Again, I hope you can see this. If not, this is going to be really embarrassing because I'm just scrolling through these articles and you're not going to be able to see them. But essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to see all of these things happening. And sadly, that's going to, negatively affect a lot of students. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the positives of this, because I want to focus on positives of this situation because it has a lot of positives, actually. It does. And one of the main ones is success, student success. Like I said earlier, as linked in one of those articles, you can actually find substantial more success in those students who have more parental influence in them than you can with others. Like I said earlier with that quote from the article, more likely to get a GED, more likely to go on to college, more likely to graduate college with an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, whatever else. The more help you have, the more support you have behind you, the more likely you are to succeed. And that is where I want to end this off. I don't want this to go overly long. I don't want it to go into rambling. So this is where I'm going to end it off. If you believe that parental involvement should be completely scrapped from the classroom, that is up to you. But it shouldn't be what you believe. Especially after this video, I hope I've made you think that, well, there can be negative influences from too much involvement, and I really sincerely hope that I have not scared you out of it. But there can be some amount of, actual good that comes from this. There can be a lot of good that comes from this, and overall, it is good that comes from this. So, I want to thank you all for your time. This has been roughly 26 minutes of me talking at you, and I really hope that you can see the articles and notes that I've pulled up. If you can't, you'll see it through my glasses, I hope, and you'll be able to see it in those articles. You can go back. This article that I pulled up, I mentioned this one a lot, which is BAU, which is the Bay Atlantic University of DC, Washington, D.C., and it's the negative effects of parental stress on students. And I believe you guys should look at that. It's a very great article. You have the other two that I mentioned a lot. Overall, thank you so much for your time. My name is Mr. Richardson, and I really appreciate you guys for all listening to me. And thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you later. Thank you.